It is never the busy schedule that ruins a day. It is never the traffic or the deadline or the long list of things still left undone. Somehow it is always smaller than that. One sentence someone said with a certain edge in their voice. One look that lingered a second too long. One moment of being brushed aside without explanation. And somehow that single moment quietly takes over everything that follows. They may have already forgotten it within the hour, but you are still replaying it long after the lights go out and the house goes quiet. So what exactly gives one small moment so much power over an entire day? Is it really the difficult person sitting across from you at that meeting? Or is it something inside you that gets quietly activated the instant they open their mouth? Think about how differently people seem to handle the exact same kind of person. One colleague seems completely unaffected by the sharp comment that just landed in the room. Another colleague carries that same comment home like a stone in their chest. Same words, same tone, same room. So why does it cost one person nothing and cost the other person their entire evening? This is not going to be a journey about learning how to outsmart difficult people. That would be trying to control something that was never fully within your control to begin with. People will keep being who they are regardless of how well you learn to handle them. What this journey is actually about runs quieter than that. How do you walk through a conversation with someone who unsettles you and still leave that conversation with your peace fully intact? Not because they changed, but because something inside you finally did. So if the difficult person was never really the whole story here, what has been quietly running the rest of it all along? Most people walk away from a difficult conversation convinced that the other person simply exhausted them. And on the surface that feels completely true. The tone was sharp. The words were dismissive. The energy in the room shifted the moment they spoke. But look a little closer at what actually happened after the conversation ended. The person who caused the friction moved on to their next meeting within minutes, while you were the one still carrying it hours later. So if they were truly the source of the exhaustion, why did the exhaustion stay behind with you and not with them? There is a reason this lingers the way it does. Somewhere deep inside every human mind sits an old alarm system that was never built for modern conversations at all. It was built for a much older kind of danger. Being excluded from the group. Being disrespected in front of others. Being treated as if you did not matter. For most of human history, any of these things could threaten your actual survival. So the mind still treats them with that same old urgency even now. The moment disrespect appears in any form, that ancient alarm fires instantly. And once it fires, the mind reaches for the fastest response available. Defend yourself. Explain yourself. Fight back. Or go quiet and absorb the pain silently. None of these reactions make you weak. They simply reveal how ancient this wiring really is. So if this alarm has been running the show for years without your permission, what would it look like to finally notice it going off in real time? Picture the morning you leave home actually feeling good. Coffee in hand. Mood steady. Nothing weighing on you yet. Then somewhere on your way into work, a stranger brushes past you with a comment that has an edge to it. Something in your chest tightens instantly. By midday, a message you sent earlier still sits there unanswered while you watch everyone else in the group chat getting replies. By evening, someone at home listens to you describe your day and responds with something that makes it painfully clear they were not really listening at all. None of these moments involve the same person. None of them are connected by anything except one thing: you. and the pattern quietly repeating itself inside you every time. So if the common thread running through all three moments was never the people themselves, what exactly was it instead? Here is what makes this so easy to miss in the middle of a hard day. It never actually feels like three separate people. It feels like proof that the entire day itself has turned against you. But notice what stays constant underneath every one of these moments. It is not the stranger. It is not the unanswered message. It is not the distracted listener at home. It is the same reaction pattern quietly activating again and again inside you, waiting to be triggered by whichever moment happens to arrive first. So if the true source of exhaustion was never really outside you at all, what happens the moment you finally turn around and look directly at what has been running underneath it this whole time? Difficult people rarely drain you the way you assume they do. On the surface, it looks like their words are the weapon and your exhaustion is simply the result. But look a little closer and something else becomes visible. Every difficult interaction is quietly revealing something that was already sitting inside you long before that person ever opened their mouth. How much you still need approval to feel steady. How tightly you are holding on to control over things that were never yours to control. How much you expect fairness from a world that never promised you fairness in the first place. They did not create these things inside you. They simply walked into the room and switched on a light that was already wired there. So if that light was already wired inside you long before they arrived, what exactly has been waiting there all this time? Watch how quickly the mind moves the instant someone's tone shifts even slightly. A sentence lands with a little too much edge, and almost immediately a story starts writing itself faster than you can catch it. He does not respect me. I'm not good enough. She actually dislikes me. These stories rarely feel like stories in the moment. They feel like plain fact. Immediate, certain, impossible to question. But the emotion attached to that story grows heavier the instant you accept it as true without checking it first. And once it is accepted, the body starts reacting to the story itself, not to whatever actually happened. So if the story was doing most of the damage all along, what was the original moment actually worth before the story attached itself to it? There is something worth remembering the next time someone's harshness catches you off guard. Most people are not reacting to you specifically at all. They are moving through their own pressure, their own fear of losing ground, their own ego trying to protect itself, their own pain that has nothing to do with the conversation happening in front of them. The colleague who snapped at you in the hallway may be carrying tension from 3 other conversations that happened before yours. The family member who dismissed your feelings may be exhausted in ways they have not said out loud to anyone. None of this excuses the sharpness, but it does reveal something worth sitting with. Their behavior was never a reliable measurement of your worth to begin with. It was only ever a mirror reflecting whatever they themselves happened to be carrying that day. So if their behavior was never really about you in the first place, what have you been quietly measuring yourself against every time it stung? Marcus Aurelius began his mornings with something most people would find strange today. He reminded himself in advance that he would likely meet difficult people before the day was even finished. Not to feel bitter about it, but to remove the shock of it before it could ever catch him off guard. He understood something easy to miss in the middle of frustration. Difficult people were never obstacles standing in the way of his character. They were the exact material his character was built from. Patience only means something when something actually tests it. Calm only proves itself real the moment something tries to disturb it. So if difficult moments were never interruptions to the life he was trying to live, but were actually the practice ground for the very qualities he wanted to build, what would it look like to see your own difficult moments the very same way? Epictetus arrived at something even more precise through circumstances far harder than most people ever face. He knew he could not control what anyone said to him. He knew he could not control the tone someone chose or the intention behind their words. But he was certain of something that could never be taken from him, no matter how anyone treated him: the meaning he assigned to what happened. Two people can hear the exact same harsh sentence. One walks away carrying it like a wound for the rest of the day. The other simply lets it pass through without much weight at all. The sentence never changed between them. Only the meaning attached to it changed. So if the words were always the same but the impact was entirely dependent on the meaning given to them afterward, where does the actual power in that moment truly sit? Seneca spent much of his life studying why some people seem to move through difficult encounters so easily while others carried them for days afterward. And what he found was almost uncomfortably simple. The people who suffered most were usually the ones who expected the world to behave fairly in the first place. The moment you expect every person to be reasonable, every interaction to be respectful, every conversation to go the way you hoped, you have quietly set yourself up to be disappointed by reality itself. But the moment you accept that difficult people are simply part of the ordinary texture of life, something in you stops being ambushed by their existence. So if the disappointment was coming from an expectation life never actually promised to fulfill, what changes the instant you finally let go of that expectation? Underneath all three of these reflections lies the same quiet foundation. None of them are suggesting you stop feeling anything when someone treats you poorly. That would be dishonest, and none of them live that way themselves. What they are pointing toward instead is something more precise. Feel the sting honestly the moment it arrives. Understand where that sting is actually coming from before reacting blindly to it. And then choose your response based on your own values instead of based on whatever the other person just did. This is not about becoming cold or unaffected by people. It is about becoming rooted enough that their weather no longer decides your entire climate. So if character was always meant to be the root holding steady beneath the storm, what would it look like to finally start living from that root the very next time someone difficult crosses your path? Awareness begins with a single honest question asked the instant a difficult moment first lands. Not an hour later while replaying it in your head. Right there, in the exact second it happens. What is actually happening inside me right now? Most people skip this question entirely. The sting arrives and the reaction follows so quickly that the two feel like a single event happening all at once. But the moment you separate them even slightly, something shifts. You are no longer simply reacting to the person in front of you. You are watching what is rising inside yourself because of them. And that small separation is where every calmer response has ever actually begun. So the next time a difficult moment catches you off guard, will you notice what is stirring inside you before it takes over completely? There is a particular sensation worth learning to recognize the instant it appears. That sudden urge to respond immediately, to correct them, to explain yourself, to defend what just got questioned. This urge arrives fast and it feels urgent in the moment. But urgency is not the same thing as importance. The moment you feel that pull rising in your chest, try treating it as a pause button instead of a command you must obey right away. Recognition comes first. Reaction can come after. Or sometimes it does not need to come at all. So the next time that familiar urge rises in the middle of a tense exchange, what happens if you let recognition arrive before your response does? At the end of each day, something quiet becomes available if you are willing to look at it honestly. Not a list of which person upset you today, but a quieter question underneath that. Which moment today revealed a pattern already living inside me? Some days this reflection will feel uncomfortable because it shows how much of your peace was still depending on how someone else chose to behave. Other days it will feel like quiet evidence that something inside you is finally settling into steadier ground. Either way, this is not about blaming yourself for reacting the way you did. It is about staying honestly awake to the pattern until it slowly loses its grip over you, one ordinary evening at a time. So tonight, when you sit with that question honestly, what pattern do you think will reveal itself to you? There is a boundary worth setting clearly here, and it starts with letting go of something you were never actually promised in the first place. The expectation that everyone you encounter will treat you with fairness or understanding. That expectation feels reasonable on the surface, but quietly it hands your peace over to strangers and colleagues who owe you nothing and were never obligated to meet it. What you can reasonably hold on to instead is something that never depends on anyone else's behavior at all. Your own steadiness, regardless of how anyone chooses to treat you today. So if you released the expectation that everyone should understand you, what would you finally stop needing from people who were never going to give it anyway? This does not mean tolerating harmful behavior indefinitely without ever responding to it at all. There is a real difference between accepting someone's mood in a single passing moment and continuing to expose yourself to a pattern that repeats itself again and again without change. When difficulty becomes a repeated pattern rather than an isolated moment, the wisest response is often not more patience or more explanation. It is simply calm distance, not built from anger, not built from punishment. Just a quiet stepping back that protects your energy without needing the other person's permission or agreement. So if someone keeps showing you the same difficult pattern again and again, how much longer do you owe them access to your peace? And here is where emotional discipline reveals its real purpose in all of this. It was never about staying calm to prove a point to someone else. It was about protecting your own internal weather regardless of what storm someone else brings into the room. This means you can sit across from someone who is short with you and still choose to respond with clarity instead of matching their sharpness. You can absorb someone's bad mood without allowing it to quietly become your own mood for the rest of the day. Not because their behavior deserves your calm, but because your calm was never meant to be a reward you only offer when people behave well first. So the next time someone's mood tries to pull yours along with it, will you let their mood decide your day? Or will your own discipline decide it instead? There is a quiet shift in the internal question you ask that changes almost everything about how a tense moment unfolds. For most of your life, the automatic reaction to someone difficult has probably been, "He made me feel this way." But there is a different question waiting underneath that reflex. Who do I want to be in this exact moment? Notice how different these two questions actually feel. One hands complete control over to someone else's behavior. The other quietly returns that control back to you. So the next time a difficult person triggers that familiar reaction in you, what happens if you pause long enough to ask the second question instead of the first? There is a sentence worth carrying with you into every difficult exchange from here forward. I cannot control people, but I can choose my character, and I choose it again today. Say this quietly to yourself the next time someone speaks to you with an edge you did not ask for. Say this the next time silence or dismissal stings more than it should. At first it may feel like nothing more than a phrase you are repeating to steady yourself in the moment. But phrases returned to often enough eventually stop being reminders. They become the quiet lens you start seeing every difficult interaction through without even trying. So if this sentence slowly became automatic inside you, what would you stop reacting to the way you used to? None of this becomes real without one small daily practice holding it steady over time. At the end of every conversation that challenges you, take a brief moment and notice something specific. Not how the other person behaved, but how you responded in that exact moment. Write it down if it helps. Speak it quietly to yourself if that feels more natural. This is not about tracking other people's behavior at all. It is about tracking your own character one interaction at a time. The same way any pattern in your life has ever actually been built. Through small repeated attention rather than one dramatic decision. So somewhere today, which conversation will you use to practice this quiet attention for the very first time? There comes a quiet moment in this process where something shifts so subtly you almost miss it happening at all. For most of your life, a single belief sat underneath every difficult encounter without you ever naming it directly. I can only feel calm if the people around me behave well. That belief felt like fact simply because it had been reinforced so many times it stopped sounding like an assumption at all. But somewhere along this journey, a different sentence begins quietly taking its place. I am someone who can protect my own peace regardless of how anyone else behaves. This is not a sentence you force yourself to believe overnight. It becomes true the exact same way every identity is ever built. Through repetition, through practice, through choosing it again quietly in the next difficult moment that arrives. This shift changes something far deeper than how you handle a single tense conversation. It changes how an entire day settles inside you afterward. Because for most of your life, one sharp comment from a stranger may have been enough to color everything that followed. One dismissive reply may have felt like proof that the whole day had turned against you. But once your peace stops depending on everyone else's behavior, a single difficult moment loses its power to define the hours that come after. It becomes exactly what it always was. One passing moment, not a verdict on how the rest of your day has to feel. This is what Marcus Aurelius understood so clearly when he prepared himself each morning for difficult people before they even arrived. He was never ambushed by their existence because his calm was never resting on their behavior to begin with. There is a stillness that begins to settle into you once this truth is fully absorbed. Not the stillness of no longer noticing when someone is being difficult, but the stillness of no longer needing them to change before you can feel steady yourself. You begin responding to sharp words the way solid ground responds to rain. It feels the weight of it honestly, but it does not wash away simply because the weather turned rough for an afternoon. This is what Epictetus meant when he placed the true power in the meaning you give to events rather than in the events themselves. He was not describing indifference to what happens around you. He was describing exactly this quiet rootedness that no one else's mood could ever fully shake loose. And this is where something becomes clear that changes how you enter every room from now on. You stop walking into conversations already bracing yourself for how the other person might behave. You stop carrying yesterday's difficult interaction into today's completely unrelated one. Instead, you walk in simply as yourself. Present, steady, not performing calmness for anyone to notice, but actually resting inside it. This does not mean you stop caring how people treat you or stop setting boundaries when needed. It means you stop outsourcing your peace to people who were never actually responsible for holding it in the first place. Seneca once observed that expecting fairness from an unfair world only guarantees repeated disappointment. And now you finally understand what he meant by that. Not as an idea to remember, but as something you can feel quietly settled inside you. Difficult people were never sent into your life to ruin your days. They were never proof that the world had turned against you or that peace was something only available when everyone around you behaved well. What has been quietly forming instead throughout this entire journey is something far steadier than that. A calm that no longer depends on the weather other people bring into the room. Built one ordinary interaction at a time, even in moments no one else ever noticed you building it. So here is something worth carrying with you into tomorrow. Not as a rule you must enforce perfectly, but as a quiet question to hold gently in the back of your mind. Tomorrow there will likely be another difficult person, another sharp comment, another moment of being dismissed or misunderstood. That old familiar sting may still rise the instant it happens. It may always rise a little. That was never the part meant to disappear completely. The real question waiting in that next moment is not whether the sting will return. The question is what you choose to do the instant it arrives. Will you hand your entire day over to whatever they just said? Or will you quietly return to the one thing that was always fully yours to hold? Your own response. Steady, unclaimed by anyone else's mood. Real peace was never something borrowed from how well the people around you behaved. It was built quietly, one difficult moment at a time, chosen again and again, long after anyone else stopped watching to see if you would choose it.